Hello and welcome to The Actor and the Engineer. My name is Paul James. I am the actor.
And my name is Josh Knapp. I'm the broadcast engineer.
All right, here we go, Josh.
All right, so we're doing movies that we've seen. We call it quick cuts. So we're not going to.
It's been a while since we've done one.
I know, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on any particular movie, but it's. I've watched a bunch of movies over this however many months since we've done this last one, and it sounds like you have too. Is that right?
That is correct, but I kind of started this month watching a ton of stuff. And so I don't know the last time we did a quick cuts. It's been more than 3 months, hasn't it?
It's been a while, yeah.
It's been a while.
Steph and I just saw The Fall Guy in the theater, and I found out today, which we were recording on May 22nd, I found out today that the movie's available to rent and buy on Amazon Prime, like on digital. And it came out May 3rd. So that window is so short, and maybe it's just for the MGM, movies on Amazon or whatever. I don't know. But that's like 3 weekends of box
I wanted to
office.
ask you about this. I sorry to interrupt you, but I'm glad you're bringing this up, because is that a result of their schedule was like that, or is that a result that the movie didn't do well at the box office?
It makes me,
and now they've caught on to, let's not keep it in the theaters for a long period of time. Let's go ahead. It's like when you open something on Netflix and in the theater at the same time. That wasn't a thing 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Now it's a thing. And so, like tons of movies, Killers of the Flower. Oh no, that wasn't released until after.
Yeah, that was a while.
But there's been and it's still $19.99 to rent that movie, by the way.
Well, they just want you to sign up for Apple TV Plus.
Okay. Well, it's on. Okay.
It's on Apple TV Plus. You can watch it for free on Apple
You
TV
can
Plus.
rent
You
it.
just got to pay the monthly fee to do that.
Oh, so they're trying to juice that.
Yeah.
Trying to squeeze that juice.
They want to get people to subscribe. I mean, it's just like why Netflix does their own movies. The Fall Guy's still available in movie theaters, though. You can still go see it in a movie theater.
Yeah.
But if you want to sit
I just saw that.
Then, it's $20 to rent it. So,
but the movie has not done well in
No.
the box office. So I was wondering if that's what spawned the idea of releasing it so soon.
You're right, because the only reason they're sitting on it is because they want to sit on it, really, because it's MGM and they're making it available on an Amazon Prime, which owns MGM. So there's nobody to go to deal with. I guess maybe the movie theaters are probably gonna be pretty ticked off, because it's kind of like, hey guys, we're
not if it's not selling.
Well,
if it's
that's
not
true.
if it's not selling, then they want to bring whatever next is.
Yeah, and then they're going to back away. They're going to pull that from the theaters and add more things. So yeah, it's bad, because you're making more. Well, the movie theaters are making more money on the popcorn and all that stuff.
Right. Sure.
And so it sucks for them. But you're right. If they can sell other movies instead of The Fall Guy, then they're going to want to fill their theaters with that. So, I mean, that makes sense. That being said, I liked The Fall Guy. Steph liked The Fall Guy. I thought it was a great movie. I mean, for what it was, I think that, not even for what it was, I liked it. I like David Leitch movies. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I do like David Leitch movies. And it was an action movie. It was a romantic comedy. It was all that together. And I think that it was good. I mean, it is similar to Deadpool in that same way, where it's romantic comedy, but then also action movie. And David Leitch did Deadpool 2, so you can kind of see that. He was also involved in John Wick movies, and he did Bullet Train with Brad Pitt, who he was the stunt double for back in 25 years ago or whatever. So I mean, he's been able to transition into this and be comfortable with this kind of directing action heavy movies. And the movie that really kind of locked me in on him was Atomic Blonde, where
I love that movie.
It's so good, and it has no business being that good. And this movie may have had certain things they could have changed to goose it a little bit, but I felt like it was a love letter to movies and a love letter to stunts in movies, and just all the minutia, the behind the scenes stuff associated with. I mean, most of the movie is set on movie sets, so that's really cool. And then the callbacks that they use and the little Easter eggs and all of it, down to the sound design. There's a little $6 Million Man sound cue in there, and The Fall Guy was a TV show in the early 80s starring Lee Majors, who was the $6 Million Man. It's that little stuff where I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay, that's they're hitting me where I live. I like that stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I find it interesting that some things just seem to take off and other things just go flat. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the quality of the film. It usually doesn't. It just is sometimes. And I also think, and this just came to me because I was thinking, what is it that didn't appeal to people? Because it seems like straight down the line, like this is Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt. You know, we just had them in Barbie and Oppenheimer and Fall Guy, Stuntman, where Ryan Gosling being his quippy little smart guy, little self. You know, action packed love movie between what? Maybe it's because it's all of those things and people are just burnt with Barbie and Oppenheimer and these people and seeing them at the Oscars and always hearing about them. And maybe they're just like, okay, enough. And I don't think it's a conscious thing at all. I think people are just like, okay, I love chocolate ice cream, but I'm going to have vanilla tonight because I've had it 7 days in a row. I'm done with it.
I mean,
right
maybe
now.
It's too earnest. Maybe it's too like, you know, trying to be what it is too much. Whereas people may be a little bit more wanting nuance or something. I don't know. I'm going to transition into another movie that I just watched last night, actually, which was Babylon. And the Brad Pitt character in Babylon, there's a scene in there where he does a movie and then goes to watch the movie in a movie theater, and people start kind of snickering and laughing instead of really seeing, you know, the passion that he's going at this role with, and they're just done with him. They're just done. And he goes to Jean Smart and he's like, what did I do wrong? Yeah. He's like, what did I do wrong? And she's like, nothing. You did nothing wrong. That's just it. They've moved on. And
but the important, sorry to interrupt, but the important part to that scene is the moral of the story is this. You're looking at this the wrong way.
Yes.
They're done with you. Deal with it. But what you don't understand is you are going to live forever. You're immortal.
Yeah.
And you did really well with immortality.
Yeah.
So shut up and deal with it and love the fact that you will forever be this face that somebody remembers when they got engaged or somebody remembered their birthday or somebody remembered their child's birthday because they saw this movie you were in. So clamp it down, you egomaniac. It's the best scene in the movie.
No, it's great. I mean, and that movie really is, to me, after watching it this, I don't know, 4th or 5th time that I've seen it now, it's more of like, I want to like take scenes out of it and just like stack the scenes up and play those scenes, and then I can get rid of the rest of it. Like there's certain scenes that are just, I mean, the first sound scene that Margot Robbie is in.
I thought you were going to talk about something else.
No, not the first scene in the movie. That's neither here nor there. But the first sound scene that Margot Robbie is in, and then also the first time she goes to the kinescope or what, like the in the round where they're making all these different movies all at the same time, and it's the intercut quickly, and she's being told to cry and she's being told to hold a tear for the just one tear, give it a beat and hold it back, and like all of that, and it's intercut with Manny and that character. I mean, it's so well done. I mean, the movie has these amazing pieces, and also is a love letter to cinema, a love letter to movies, a different era of movies, but also like a reflection of how movies are still magical, and how maybe those edges have been worn off, and it's become commodified at this point where there's less grassroots to a movie and more commodification to it. Certain movies. There's still movies out there that are, whatever it is, The Florida Project or something. It's kind of
American Fiction.
Yeah. Oh, American Fiction. Yeah. So, but movies,
Past Lives.
Yeah, and movies that are tight.
Winter Spoon.
And contained.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to name all the examples that counteract everything you just said.
I'm looking at.
I understand what
studios,
you're saying. Yeah,
studio produced movies.
Yeah.
Whereas back then everyone is clawing to in this wild west of an industry, and once you codified these 4 movie studios, and they were all vertically integrated, everybody had their own Paramount had their theaters and MGM had their theaters and all that stuff. I mean, it got so closed in at a certain point, but with the advent of digital filmmaking, like you're right, everybody can make a movie. You can Well, I mean, the Florida Project guy, Sean Baker, he made a movie with an iPhone, Tangerine. So, I mean, it's like there is no barrier to entry anymore. So it's just, do you have a good idea? Can you make it? Can you make it happen?
It's all about the story.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's interesting. Babylon is just indulgent and just too much for me. And I've seen it twice. Indulgent. And I get what he was going for. And I love most of it. It just left a weird taste in my mouth to the point where I can't get through that. Hey, back to what you said about you would take a couple of scenes and like, in your head, that's the movie that you'd watch.
Yeah.
Do you ever do that with things where you just kind of like, okay, something about this movie, and this sounds really like pompous to say, because I would never say, oh, I know I can make Goodfellas a little bit better. Here's how I would do it. I would never say, yeah. I would never, but then that's not one of the movies that I would re-edit in my mind. But there are movies out there that I think, well, maybe if this was here and that was there, and maybe if this was longer and this was shorter, and my mind, sometimes when I can't sleep at night, I'll do that. I'll dissect something in my mind, or I'll make a list of something for the next day. It doesn't necessarily have to be with movies, or I'll think about the chapter of the book I'm reading, whatever, to kind of keep my mind away from thinking about not sleeping. And then it helps me sleep. And so I will re-edit things in my mind. Well, why doesn't that work for me? Oh, well, maybe because if that went first and that went last, and I love to do it to Tarantino movies because I know it would kill him. Like it would kill him. He'd be so pissed.
Make it chronological, for example.
Yeah, just on purpose, just for my mind. I would never suggest that out loud because he does what he does and it's perfection. And there's nothing I would change about it. And I love the crazy structure to his movies, the middle and the beginning at the end, blah, blah, blah. But it does, although that said, I hated when they did that to the Godfather series, where they did it chronologically. I hated it. Like nothing, I can't sit through it. I can't breathe. Something about it is so, I don't know. I can't comprehend why they did it. So anyway, I do sometimes think, well, maybe if this was a little slower, this was a little faster, or maybe if they explained that before they explained this would make this work differently for me. And then I'll spend the rest of the night, by then I'm usually asleep, but I'll spend the rest of the night thinking, well, is this just interesting to me because I've rearranged it in my mind, or would it really work structurally? And if it works structurally, why did they choose to do what they did? And I often think I could have never come up with that idea or never come up with that way of doing it. Yeah. So what sparks a director to put it in that order or to edit it the way that the editor does? It keeps my mind, I do a lot of driving. And so my mind, if it's not music, then my mind is occupied by usually movies, sometimes theater. But I've done a couple of plays where I thought, oh, well, if that scene was here and this scene was there, then the audience might react this way. But I would never say that out loud.
Well, or like to the playwright, for example.
Never. I mean, because there's a play right now that's being celebrated. And I'm not even going to go past that point because I don't want anybody to know what play I'm talking about. And I was so perplexed by it that I bought the play because I thought if I read it, I'll get it because I think I get it. And I think I know what they were going for. The play was just driving me crazy. Not in a bad way, just I was starting to get obsessed about what did this playwright want? And why does that character do that? And why is this character doing this? And I thought if I read it, it would exorcise all that from me. It did not.
Oh, jeez.
It made it even more compulsive to the point where I started to break down the scenes and wondering if this was here and wondering if this was explained a little bit differently, or what is it that I'm not getting that's making this place celebrated. And sometimes I just get to a point where I'm like, well, maybe that's not where I'm at in my brain. Because there are movies I've seen 20 years ago I didn't understand. And I've seen them recently and I go, oh, okay.
Oh, totally. I mean, you're right. Because once you've lived a little bit of life and then you're not looking at it in that particular angle. And then so, you may be like, oh, I've experienced something very similar to that. And then you can look at it like that. For me, at least, when I start thinking about, I don't really think about necessarily moving scenes around anything, but I do think about there is especially when you're watching a movie at home, there's a feeling of I'm going to check my phone. And if I get that feeling, then it's a slow part of the movie. it's not holding my attention. And I'm not saying that, you know, oh, you need to hold my attention at all times. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, you know, why is it that I'm not locked into this movie? Because there are movies that are slow movies that I'm still locked into. On the opposite side of that, Mad Max Fury Road, and we're probably going to be talking about Furiosa.
You did that on purpose.
No.
I just want to let everybody in the audience to know you did that on purpose.
No. Seriously though, I do try not. I mean, I don't check my phone when I'm in the theater, but I do like feel like I reach over to check my phone if things get slow in a movie.
And you're using Mad Max Fury Road as an example where you checked your phone?
No, the opposite. Mad Max Fury Road is a movie that does not stop. It does not let up. And that has been my main problem with that movie in the past. To me, it has very little dynamism because it's always at an 11, you know? So I need to rewatch it again. I've seen it multiple times. I own it.
I think the lady doth protest too much. You protest to not liking this movie a lot.
But
you bring it up as an example a lot.
But I am open to reevaluating the film. I want to like this movie because everybody I tell that I'm like, it's an exhausting movie that I can't hang with. They're like, okay, like they don't know what to say because I've yet to find somebody who doesn't like the movie. So believe me, I love to be in.
I'm looking at one.
I love to be in the group that celebrates things, but for whatever reason, like I can't. I haven't been able to. And I watched it in the theater.
Two real quick
initially,
questions.
Yeah.
Is it the fact that you want to celebrate it or that you're wrong that bugs you the most? You don't have to answer that. Two, do you think that the cell phone thing has just become part of our addiction, that it's become part of our world, that we're so used to checking it that it might not necessarily be the movie or the scene that's going slow for you or not working for you? That's why you want to reach for the phone? Or is it because it's become such a natural thing for us to do to reach for the phone? Because I wonder about that. I wonder if it is the movie. It's like when it's really a weird phenomenon when you're on stage and you can tell a scene's not going well. It's the worst, but you can hear the audience moving.
So and maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the awkwardness of the scene, and I need to get away. Like if you're standing in line for something in the past, if you were standing in line for something, and then you just like, everybody's here and we're all standing in line and I don't know you and I don't know the person behind me and I don't know that, and we're all just gonna stand here and we're all just gonna like look around. But now you have this like security blanket of a phone to look down. And you don't have to deal with the awkwardness. So
you don't have to look at the numbers in the elevator anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
So you don't have to look at other. I love it. I love that part of social media.
It's definitely a security blanket. So maybe
don't bug me. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. Don't be mean to me. I'm not going to be mean to you. Just leave me alone.
And
I love it.
So
I love it.
So maybe that's it. Maybe I feel an awkwardness in the pacing of the movie or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, let's get away from this awkwardness by checking my emails or whatever. So that may be it too. I don't know. I didn't really think about it that way. But so what have you been watching?
Well, I actually want to start with I'm reading a lot.
Okay.
I told you off podcast a little while ago that my Wi-Fi went down. And let me tell you something. Speaking of social media and the phones, I guess I just didn't realize how many things were affected because I'm so used to it. I was like, oh, that's okay. I'll watch a movie.
Nope.
No, I can't. Oh, I'll watch it down. No, I can't. Oh, I'll listen to music on my. No, I can't. Oh, I'll put on my Bose speakers. For what? They won't work. So I quickly realized nothing this night. And my landlord, who Wi-Fi is part of my rent, which is a great deal.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for it. He's a great guy too. He was out of town in California.
Oh man.
So I was like, what do I do? I mean, so 3 days without Wi-Fi in my house. Yeah, you had that reaction every time I told you too. You're like, what would you do? So I was like, I have a book, duh. And it's not like I don't read because I have social media or because I don't. I read other than that. So anyway, there was a book that I bought last Christmas called The House in the Carillion Sea. Have you ever heard of that book?
No.
Okay. My niece, I visited her in Asheville last year for Christmas, and we went to the bookstore, and she said that's one of her favorite books. And I was like, sold, I'll read it. For whatever reason, I never picked it up. And her statement was, I wish I could read that book for the first time again. And I was like, that's interesting. Well, anyway, it's one of the best reads of my life. It was, I laughed, I cried, I screamed, I chuckled out loud. I took me to 3 o'clock in the morning to finish it one night because I just did not want to put it down. It was great. It was, I just absorbed it. So it was really good to read. And the reason why I bring up the Wi-Fi thing is because when I was telling you about that, I said, yeah, I read 130 pages in my book. That's an unusual amount of reading for me. I mean, I don't know if that's normal for people or how much people read in one sitting, but that's an enormous amount. And that book's about 300 pages. So I'm halfway done.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and there's a satisfaction. And your wife and I were talking about this off podcast just earlier tonight. There's a satisfaction to reading that comes from only reading. And the end of a book and the celebration of the end of a book, whether or not you want it to end or not, because I didn't want this book to end. And then there's this little bit of withdrawal and a little bit of depression after you read something that good that you're like, oh, I'm not coming home to those characters tonight. Their story is finished. Even if there's a book part 2 or whatever, you know, that story is finished and it's a little bit of a letdown. So I just picked up another book. And I was reading Stephen King's Fairy Tale, which they're making into a movie, by the way. And I finally finished that, and that's like 560 pages.
He can write.
It's
very easy for him to fill a page.
Yes, it is. And he'll repeat himself.
Yeah.
That is a pattern he sometimes gets into. Anyway, I finished that book. I was satisfied. And I went into this book exchange. It wasn't a bookstore. It was a book exchange. And I was looking for Blood Meridian or All the Pretty Horses, Cormac McCarthy, because I've read 2 of his. And she was like, oh, he's awfully popular. I don't know. And I was like, he's awfully weird for being so popular. Like his books are hardcore. And she's like, we don't have either. I guess, yeah. I
Maybe
don't know how
too
to
realistic.
define.
Maybe they're ultra realistic. I don't know.
Well, it's just, they're just not happy subjects. You know, The Road is not a happy, it's not post-apocalyptic book where things happen where people eating things they shouldn't be eating. So, I mean, that's never going to be like joy. I'm reading this great Christmas book. And No Country for Old Men just is sad because of where the Tommy Lee Jones in the movie character ends up in the book. It's just sad, his perspective. Anyway, so I went to the book exchange, asked for these books, and she said, oh, we don't have them. And I turned and I saw The Green Mile. And I was like, oh, that's the Stephen King book that's crazy. The movie's based on? And she said, yeah. I said, sold. And I bought The Martian also, which I haven't read. But I read The Green Mile, and then I watched it again.
Oh, cool. Do you know how it came out? Like how the book came out? Okay.
In the paper, like
it was serials. Yeah. I read it when it came out. The weeks that it came out one a week.
Okay. Because I was trying to figure out, because in the book it's listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It must have been 6 sections.
Yep, it is. I just looked it up. 6 books. Yep.
Okay. But you know, I wasn't that intrigued by that. This is just a combination of the whole story. And I was like, okay, another Stephen King, I'm okay with that. Another movie that I've seen before I read the book, I'm okay with that. Well, I'm super glad I read it because it's a great read. And it is a fantastic movie that is, I've often said, the only book that I thought was transposed to a movie in the best way was The Color Purple. I thought that was one of the hardest books to transpose into a movie because it's nothing but letters, but they did a really good job. And Spielberg did a really good job of what he put in the film versus what's in the movie or in the book. And that's a really hard thing to do. The Green Mile is close second. It is so close. The movie is so close. There's only a few things. The thing when he's elderly that goes throughout the series is it bookends the movie. It begins and ends the movie. That subplot is shortened to the beginning and end of the movie. And some small minor things are changed, but pretty much he filmed that book and the dialogue is almost verbatim. So it was really, I cried during the book. I cried during the movie. I loved every second. I couldn't wait to finish the book. It's 535 pages. Yeah. It took me a long time because I wanted to see the movie again. Cause I was like, did this happen in the movie? Did that happen in the movie? It's just extremely well told, both book and movie. So it was fun to go back and watch something after reading it. And I immediately, in minutes, put the book down, got something to drink, went on Prime, found The Green Mile, and started it and finished watching it that night. And it's a 3-hour movie.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's not a short movie. So I have been exhilarated by books right now.
Very
I
cool.
am starting Bono's book, Surrender, and I'm starting The Martian. The Martian's not captivating me, but I'm curious to see.
I've read that one. It's a more technical
I remember
book.
you telling me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, any book starts the way that it starts. Do you remember how it starts? I'm in effing trouble. Those are like the first lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm good. This guy's not holding back anything. I'm just curious. I'm always curious to see the difference between a book and a movie. And I'm always curious about why they choose to change things in movies. And they change one or two small things in the movie, The Green Mile. And I loved the book. Loved it. But what they changed the movie kind of was a more interesting choice. And I can't say anything without giving spoilers out if people haven't seen it. I mean, it came out in 1999. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, but and we could talk about it later. But it's fascinating to watch the difference. So I'm reading a lot, but I'm also catching up on some TV shows also before I get to the movie list. So have you seen Outer Range? Do you know anything about this?
I know about it, but I saw the trailer for it, but I haven't watched it at all.
Well, it's season 2. Josh Brolin, Lily Taylor, Tom Pelphrey. Do you remember who he is? The brother from Ozark.
He had the talk in the car in Ozark, I guess. But I saw him in Mank.
Ever put on film.
Yeah.
Oh, in Mank, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I know him from, but I have not seen him in Ozark. But you talk about that monologue. I'm telling you, man. All the time.
I'm telling you. I mean, there's been some good monologues put down on film, but it's incredible. And Louis Pullman, do you remember who he is?
Yeah, totally. Bad Times at the El Royale.
And remember me talking about him? And speaking of great monologues in movies, his is great.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's that kid? And come to find out, that's Bill Pullman's son.
I don't think we realized that when we talked about that.
Not at all.
Okay, yeah. I didn't think
Not at all.
Wow.
And also, what's her name from Civil War? Priscilla.
Kaylee Spaney.
Spaney, right?
She's in that too.
That's what I'm saying. We talked about her too, about how masterful she was too. And anyway, I cannot not see Bill Pullman now when I see Louis Pullman. Yeah. He looks just like his dad. I mean, he really does, and he is superb. And then also, Imogen Poots is in Outer Range.
Cool.
So for her alone,
I'm
not sure how much you're going to like the show, but for her alone, it's worth. And Josh Brolin, he's great, and Lily Taylor, and all of these people.
Yeah.
But the season 2 kind of started out. I was like, they're going full force into this thing. It's hard to explain.
Did you watch season 1?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Okay. Of course. And I actually ended up getting Prime back to watch season 2 because I got rid of Prime to save some money. Anyway, so Outer Range and Hacks season 3. Have you watched Hacks?
I've watched season 1, but I haven't kept up with it since season 1 was great. I watched it in like a weekend. It was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they release 2 at a time. So there's 8 episodes. I don't know how many it's going to be for the new season because there's 10, 8, and 6 so far. So they're releasing 2 at a time, and I watch them back to back. And I have a fever of wanting to complete the series.
Jean Smart again.
Even at the first, she's so great.
Dang.
Oh my gosh, she's so.
Where was she? What happened? Why was she not in things between like designing women and Watchmen, you know?
But she was in quite a bit. It's just that we didn't. She's done a few things. It's just that back in that time, anybody who hits 30 is done if they're female in Hollywood. But Meryl Streep and Helen Mirren and Jean Smart and you name it. There's a plethora. Renee Zellweger now. I mean, there's tons of women who are now, they're writing, Nicole Kidman, Reese Witherspoon. They're writing stories for women past a certain age. They weren't writing stories for these women past a certain age. And luckily she held out and worked until she got her due, and she is getting her due because she is fantastic in this show. And the last thing I'll mention that I watched on TV is that, or whatever you want to call it, streaming, is I talked about watching The Last of Us again, but I just couldn't do it. But I watched the episode 3 with Nick Offerman and Maury Bartlett, and I honestly think it's one of the best hours of TV ever, hands down. Just the storyline is beautiful. The structure of the story is beautiful. The way it unfolds kind of in backwards time.
Yeah.
And how it fills in, and I didn't realize it until I watched it again, because I wouldn't watch the show again. I can't do it right now. It's too much. It's just too much. And like, I won't watch the Melanie Linsky episode again, because it's that young kid's in it, and that young kid breaks my heart. Even thinking about him breaks my heart. So I can't do it right now. I just can't. I will, but I can't right now. But the thing that was interesting about watching that episode again, obviously, the storyline appeals to me on a personal level, but that's irregardless, really. The fact that that story is a separate story from the rest of the show, but tells you so much about what's going on in the show.
Yeah.
Like, it explains how the government took over and the government became something other than what it was. It explains how Joel did this and how they all do these things around this encapsulated story of these two men who find each other. And that's what I think is the brilliance. They didn't just tell a separate love story. They told a separate love story that makes you understand what Ellie and Joel's next steps are, and why they are taking the steps that they're taking before you see them go back in time and then come back and to present day and blah, blah, blah. It's so well done. It is just emotionally intense. Nick Offerman won the Emmy. I cannot fault that, other than all those other people we just mentioned were also nominated for the Emmy, including the young man. And so I think he deserved it. He's never been better. And I'm telling you, if that was a movie or in a movie, he would have won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, because he's so dead on. It's just mesmerizing. So anyway, TV, reading, and a ton of movies, which we can talk about
I think
in just
that,
a second.
as far as like that episode of Last of Us, I mean, that they don't do that very often in The Last of Us, or didn't do that in the first season very often. But one TV show that does that perfectly is Atlanta, where they will have episodes that are completely separate, different characters from the main characters, but then they will also have, kind of like singular episodes that are focusing on one character, and the other characters basically aren't even in it. And they do such a good job of like unfolding and unpacking a particular character, a particular element of a character, and the episode stands alone, starts and ends, and is a complete piece of art separate from the show, but also still informs the show. And I hadn't seen
See,
that.
that's the important part. The standalone part, I think, has been done before.
Yeah.
The episodic TV with one great episode that has nothing really to do with anything else has been done.
Yeah.
For them to intertwine it the way that they did. And like I said, I probably didn't realize it when I watched it the first time, how intertwined it was, because I didn't know all that I know that I've seen the first season.
Yeah.
Now that I look back, I've not seen one episode of Atlanta. I got to put that on my list now.
Yeah, no, it's
and we've been talking
one of the
about
best
that for years,
shows,
and I'm a little bit of ashamed of myself.
It's one of the best shows to ever be made, period.
Oh,
that it is. There's,
if you were famous, we were famous, they would use that as a promotional tool.
There you go. I mean, they could
Josh
still do
Knapp
it. FX, if you want to talk,
engineer says.
Yeah, if I said FX, if they want to talk, I'm open. I'm open. They want me to, like give it a little bit. I can do that.
Don't take a split second to be humble or bashful or anything. Just go right for it. Let's talk. Have my people call your people.
That's right. I watched Fallout all in one day.
What?
Yeah. It just happened.
It's my next thing.
It just happened.
My next thing.
And it wasn't necessarily, it was one of those things where it was just like, oh, I'll just watch this next one. I'll just watch the next one. It is not an Atlanta caliber show, but I do gravitate towards those like post-apocalyptic type shows. And Walton Goggins does a great job. And, Ellie Purnell, I think is her name. She also does a good job. I mean, there's, and Kyle MacLachlan's in it too, and he's always good.
He's great.
Yeah, but yeah, it kind of, there's a lot of, and I never played the video games, so I'm sure that it's one of those shows that is steeped in the lore of all the video games, and from talking with people at work and just around.
Wait, stop! I'm sorry to interrupt you. The young woman that you were just talking about, Ella Purnell.
Ella Purnell. Okay.
Ella, Ella Purnell. Yep. She's the blonde in Yellow Jackets.
Yes.
That Yeah. Sorry, I
that
just got excited because I was
something
wondering
happens.
about her if she's excellent in Yellow Jackets.
She is great in Yellow
Yeah,
Jackets.
it's kind of hard to say exactly what happened without it being like a major spoiler.
She's in the show. We'll say that. She plays a character in the show.
And I think she's excellent. And all those young ladies who are the younger versions of the older ones we meet are all excellent. I was just thinking about, I didn't even know her name. Yeah. I'll never forget it now. I was wondering if she's done any other work. And speaking of phones, that's the one deficit I have, is that I think about 1,000 things and I want to look it up. By the time I look it up, I've forgotten about it. So I have 1,000 things I want to look up. Anyway, I'm excited that she's in this show because I really like her as an actress. Sorry to digress
she's
from
great.
what you were talking about.
They're not looking for big names, and maybe it was due to the budget or whatever, but at the same time, I think what it does is it allows those people to shine in this show, and they're not going for huge names. But then I've seen these people in other things. There was one guy, he plays the brother of the Ella Purnell character, and I saw him in a movie called Boys of Summer, and he did a really good job. Now I have to look it up. Yeah, Moises Arias, and I believe Kings of Summer. I love that movie. Yes, The Kings of Summer.
With they build the house in the woods.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it came out in 2013. So yeah,
we've talked a lot about that movie. So actually. He's the little guy.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
No. He's a shorter guy, and as he's grown into an adult, he's still shorter. So like his stature is played off of, and then
he has strength.
Yes,
because I focused on him all the time in that movie.
Well, in this
I couldn't
in this
stop
show,
thinking about him.
Yeah, in this show, it informs the character actually. So they play on that. So I think it's well done, and it goes places that I did not expect it to go. So I think it's definitely worth a watch. Probably don't have to watch it all in one day, but it's.
I don't know. I've been on a streak, man.
There you go.
The Wi-Fi went out. We got a new router, so I don't know where I'm going to be tonight. But I mean, I want to start on Fallout. A guy at work likes it, and we've gotten done talking about all of The Last of Us. He loved Killers of the Flower Moon. He's like, "How is that not the movie of the year?" I go, "I don't understand it. Don't even get started." And so, but he's not like a movie fanatic or anything. He just he likes what he likes. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned The Last of Us, and he was like, "Oh, you like that kind of stuff?" And I was like, I like stuff that's good. And as for that thing you said about not casting named actors, I think that nowadays, because of streaming and because of all of the things that we've talked about, digital, and now people can make their own movies and they can use a phone to make a movie or commercial, whatever it may be. I think that people have caught on to casting the right person for the role versus casting a named actor to get people to watch it, because they've finally picked up on that if it's good, it doesn't matter if we know who the actors are, that it will transcend that, and it will wash away the need to have Robert Downey Jr. and Brad Pitt. By the way, side note, do you know that Robert Downey Jr. is going to Broadway now? He's going to do his first Broadway show.
I didn't know that.
His first play in like 40 years. So is George Clooney.
Oh, interesting. That is interesting. Well, I mean,
if you think about it, win an Oscar, then what?
Yeah, you win it, but he's also got that Marvel money, so like he doesn't need to work really. But then at the same time, I think he's producing and is starring in The Sympathizer on HBO. I want to see that too. I saw the first episode. I think it's good. I think they really had a hard time dealing with the scope of the story and utilizing CGI to produce the scope of the story. So that's the most judicious way I can say that. But
real quick before we move on, with Fallout, there's an actor by the name of Michael Esper. Mm-hmm. Do you have him up? He plays Bud Askins. Do you know who that is from the show?
If I see his face, maybe Bud Askins.
He's the last picture on IMDb of the cast. If you scroll through the cast, starting with Ella Purnell.
Oh no.
Anyway, Michael Esper. He's the brother of Sarah Paulson in the play Appropriate that I saw on Broadway that she's nominated for the Tony.
Very cool.
He's the younger brother of Corey Stahl and the younger brother of Sarah Paulson, and he was excellent. He has the hardest role in that play, in my opinion. His character is not written to be liked, that's for sure. And he was good. He's real good. So I'm always like really happy that I see these people in plays, and then all of a sudden I see them in a movie, and I'm so happy they're working because somebody has caught on. Not that like I'm the only one who's caught on to that guy's talented. Obviously he's working. He's in a Broadway show. Somebody knew him and somebody knows how talented he is. But I'm so happy that these people, Ella Purnell, I'm so happy that people, talent will work if you give it enough time. And sometimes, we've gone through a stretch where if you weren't Robert Downey Jr., Brad Pitt, Mel Gibson, George Clooney, any of those big, Johnny Depp, you didn't get a movie greenlit.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit different. Now it's better in my opinion. It's not as good as it should be, but it's better. Just like we were talking about women in their 40s. There are tons now, not as many as there probably should be. And we're getting better at it though. And I think any improvement with that kind of stuff. So if you have an actor who's really great for the role and a producer says, no, but I want a name, you can go, no, but this is the guy. Now you have example after example after example of how that pans out. It's like Da'Vine Joy Randolph. Oh, we want Monique, or, oh, we want Jennifer Hudson. I don't know who they wanted. I think he wanted her. And I think that was it. And no one was going to tell Alexander Payne anything, but look what happened.
Yeah.
Look what happened.
It's the right person at the right time for the right role.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Irregardless of everything else of what we've come to learn.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So Steph and I, we watched The Bodyguard, and it's because we were talking about the soundtrack and how we both owned it and all that. But after watching The Bodyguard, we wanted to watch other romantic like romance movies, not romantic comedies. We tended to skew towards romantic comedies, but so we watched Palm Springs, which we both absolutely love, and so that kind of like cleansed the palate to a certain extent. And I love Kevin Costner, and
it's a nice way of putting that.
Well, I love Kevin Costner, but it did not age at all. It aged very poorly, that The Bodyguard did. But so Palm Springs was something that we could put in the hopper. We knew it was going to be good. We also watched Anyone But You, the Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell movie, and that was good. It was fine. It was innocuous. It was funny, actually. It was funny. It was a romantic comedy that was funny, so that's good. And then we finished it off with Bull Durham, which is always amazing. So that's such an easy watch.
They didn't want Susan Sarandon.
Wow.
She was too old.
She was too
Not
old.
Sexy.
Insane.
Not sexy enough for Kevin Costner. What? She's like the sexiest person in the world in that movie.
The sexiest person
She's
in the world.
something else in that movie. Like
she's a force.
She's the smartest person in that movie too. Let's not. I love that line about when I realized that the stitches in the baseball are the same amount as the nod. What's it? The beads on a rosary are the same amount, 32 or whatever it is. That's when I fell in love with baseball, or that's when I gave myself over to baseball. That's not the line, but that's close. I was like, that's a clever thought. Like, who put that together?
I mean, it'd be Ron Shelton, I guess. I mean, I think he wrote and directed it, didn't he? I think he wrote and directed it.
I think you're right.
But just the differences between like movies that, and I think Palm Springs is getting up there because it's such a curio piece. It's such a contained, rules-based, but also with heart movie. And Bull Durham is sloppier. Bull Durham is a kind of a sloppy movie, but it's held together by this triumvirate of characters, and it just moves forward and it makes you feel good, even though there's times that that they're at each other's throats or whatever, but it's got a lot of heart. Bull Durham has a lot.
Well, it's Rocky. He doesn't win.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And that's something that I think that's what makes that Bull Durham work for me, that he doesn't go back to the show.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He knows his place. It takes him a while to figure it out, although I think he knows. And the fact that Tim Robbins is such a buffoon, but yet so talented.
Yeah.
Does he deserve it? But when it comes down to it, it's about talent.
Well,
it's not about character per se.
Well, it's Babylon, because you've got the up and comer and you've got the declining veteran. So,
and Bull Durham takes it one step further and makes the declining talent, A Star is Born, teach and help
become a mentor.
Become a mentor to the upcoming talent, even though the upcoming talent is a buffoon, and he's like, that guy's ridiculous. ridiculous. Absolute. But that's where Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon started dating.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because are they still married or I don't know.
I don't.
Either way,
so.
it doesn't really
matter. I
matter.
don't think they ever got married.
Okay. Well, they were together for a long time. Yes, at the very
forever.
least. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting how you went from one thing to the next, all based on romantic comedies or romance or whatever.
Yeah.
I've kind of done the same thing, but a little bit in a different way. If it's come into my mind, I watch it. So, when I was writing them down, I was like, why did this come into my mind? And I was trying to figure out the connection of how these all work. So the first one is The Witches of Eastwick. For whatever reason, I started thinking about, speaking of Susan Sarandon, I don't know if it was Cher and how underappreciated she is as an actress, or the fact that she hasn't done that much work. So maybe people don't really, I don't know what it is about her that people don't appreciate her for what she's doing at the time. And she's often been quoted as saying, musicians don't think I'm a musician and actors don't think I'm an actor. But yet she has 2 Oscar nominations, an Oscar win, in these movies that are part of my zeitgeist of my life. But then I realized, it's because George Miller directed that. And I started thinking about George Miller and Furioso.
Yeah.
And how does he go from that to Witches of Eastwick or vice versa? How does that mind work?
And how do they go? How does he go from those to Happy Feet?
Right. Exactly. Yes. Like that's something that will keep me, that will help me fall asleep at night, thinking of how does that work? Yeah. But I guess when you have the talent that George Miller has, you have a taste for other things than just what you're famous for. But the fact that we think of him as Beyond Thunderdome and Mad Max, and we don't think of him as the director of these other films, is fascinating to me, because he's done quite a few interesting films in between all of the movies that he's known for. Anyway, I watched The Witches of Eastwick. Everything works that worked back in the 80s. Everything that didn't work doesn't work now. The performances are stunning. The last sequence with the special effects is weird. And it was weird back then. But, it's interesting to watch such talented people working together for the first time too. Cher's never worked with Jack Nicholson, never worked with Michelle Pfeiffer. All of them have never worked together, but they're excellent in scenes together. That first scene, I don't know how long it's been since you've seen it or if you've ever seen it.
I saw it like on HBO in the 90s. It was...
Yeah. Well, there's the scene where Jack Nicholson tries to convince Cher to stay, and she's got, I got this to do. And she was like, no, the daughter will take care of that. That scene right there is so well acted by Cher. It's so well done. And so sometimes I like to watch things just so I can remind myself that these people are the talented people that I think they are. And I remember the moment of first seeing it and what I felt, and I wanted to see if I felt that same way. So anyway, for whatever reason, Witches of Eastwick came into mind. I watched it. And I figured out it was because of George Miller. Then I was like, Cabaret came into my mind. I was like, why am I thinking about Cabaret? But Joel Grey just went to see Eddie Redmayne on Broadway doing the same part that he won the Oscar for.
Oh, Eddie
Joel Grey
Redmayne's
won the
doing
Oscar.
Cabaret?
Yes. Yes.
The MC, I guess.
MC. Okay. Yeah, the MC. And Eddie Redmayne was just nominated for the Tony. And so I read an article about how Bob Fosse didn't want Joel Grey, not because he didn't like Joel Grey, but because he didn't want to have anything to do with the original Broadway show, which Joel Grey won the Tony for. And side note, Joel Grey is one of a handful of people, and it's a small list of people who've won the Tony for the same role they won the Oscar for. So it's an interesting little bit of trivia. So I started thinking about it. I was like, I haven't seen that movie in forever. I'm going to watch it again. Oh my gosh. Have you seen it?
Cabaret?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
You've seen the live show too.
Yes, I've seen it twice, I think. Once was in like regional at Mizzou, at University of Missouri, and then once we saw it in like Reno. So yeah.
Crazy.
It was crazy.
Well, the last thing I want to say about Cabaret is that I figured out it's the best movie musical put on screen. And people are like, oh, it's hyperbolic, it's hyperbole. No, I'm telling you, here's why. What's the number one reason why people don't like movie musicals? The first thing out of people's mouths when they say, I don't like...
Just because they can't believe that people would just like, break out in song randomly in the middle of a scene.
Nobody just says, I'm going to go with my list now. I'm at number 10. Nobody does that in real life. Cabaret doesn't do that. All the musical numbers take place in the bar.
So it's diegetic music as opposed to non-diegetic music. We've talked about this in the past. Means. Diegetic music is when an example of diegetic music is in Jerry Maguire when Tom Cruise drives down the road and is singing Free Fallin'. Free Fallin' is diegetic music. The character is hearing the same music that we're hearing.
Okay.
Whereas non-diegetic music would be Mean Streets with Robert De Niro walking into the bar, walking towards Harvey Keitel, and Jump a Jack Flash is playing. Nobody's hearing Jump a Jack Flash.
That's not on the jukebox in the bar?
Oh, wait, is it? I don't know, but it goes full.
Because I can tell you Jerry Maguire has a non-diegetic music throughout it when they first go on the date.
Yes. Oh, and
he's waiting on the side of the
Bruce
street. And she comes with her. It's the best. Secret Garden. It's the best.
So
I love that song.
That's non-diegetic. Same movie. You're right. Okay. That would be an example of non-diegetic music. He's not hearing that song. She's not hearing that song. Only we are hearing that song. So that's so Cabaret has all diegetic music. So everyone 100%. In the movie is hearing the same music that we are hearing. So yeah.
And it informs the characters, which is the most important aspect of having music in a movie, which sparked me to think about A Star is Born, the Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga, because the songs are character driven. The songs will let you know where the characters are at that particular place in time. Mm-hmm. The second song he sings in the club when she's getting ready, she's getting
just that guitar song at the Cabaret.
We've got to let the old ways die. Is the lyric. It's informs where the character's at that particular moment. It's just not songs they made up because he's a singer and she's a singer. The songs actually mean stuff to the characters, with maybe the exception of the Saturday Night Live song, which I don't understand. So anyway,
I have lyric blindness. I can't, or lyric deafness. I don't hear lyrics a lot. Like I'll just focus on the music part and not hear the words,
even when it's that important?
I mean, maybe, but I'm more interested or more keyed into the music itself. I don't know. I have to really work hard to listen to the lyrics of a song. So yeah,
I can't not.
Yeah,
it immediately happens in real time that I understand that lyric means this to this character, and it happens as it's happening for me. So anyway, Cabaret. If you haven't seen it in a long time,
I need to revisit it.
It's so well done.
That brings up
just strange and unusual and out of the ordinary in the best way.
Yeah, that is cool. And that brings up, before I watched the Alex Garland's Civil War, which we just talked about, Alamo Draft also do this thing where they'll be like, oh yeah, Alex Garland recommends, or what is he? Alex Garland selects. One of the movies that he chose was All That Jazz, which I have never seen. Bob Fosse, and didn't it win Academy Awards also, or was it just Cabaret?
It was definitely not. No, Cabaret is a neat little trivia thing there. Cabaret won 8 Oscars, and it has the most wins for the picture that didn't win Best Picture.
Gotcha. Oh, wow.
That makes sense?
Amazing. Okay. So what about All
and
That
also
Jazz?
Bob Fosse won director, and Francis Ford Coppola did not win for Godfather, the first one.
Wow.
So most people think Francis Ford Coppola won, but actually Bob Fosse won. All That Jazz, I'm not exactly sure if it won anything, but I know it was nominated for a ton of stuff because I know Roy Scheider was nominated for sure.
Yeah, they play like a clip in there, and it is interesting. He's definitely going for it. Roy Scheider's definitely, and this is like post Jaws Roy Scheider too, which I thought was interesting.
Not that post.
And I just saw him recently in The Sorcerer, the William Friedkin movie, and he was good in that. But yeah, so that made me think I need to watch All That Jazz. Maybe I should watch Cabaret and All That Jazz as kind of like a
you're going to see Bob Fosse all over it because you can tell his style. Okay, so it was nominated for 8 Oscars, All That Jazz. Art direction, set decoration makes sense. Costume design, best editing, you'll think. You'll know why. Cool. Best original song, nominated for Best Picture, Leading Actor, Director, and Screenplay, and Cinematography.
Nice.
So it won 4 Oscars, and it could have won more, but obviously it didn't. So yeah, Bob Fosse, man. Whew.
Wow.
You think about these people that you hear, and then you finally experience what they did, and you go, oh, that's why I can't people don't shut up about Bob Fosse. Everybody talks about Bob Fosse, Chicago.
Yeah,
stop,
Robin Williams says it all the time. Fosse.
Ball all inside. That's the best.
So now that you've kind of like careened into the Lady Gaga singing thing on film, are you excited about Joker Folie à Deux?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, sure. I still have residuals effects in my brain about the first one, and I'm still trying to. I sometimes wonder if I watch things because I thought they were. Sometimes I watch things because they're so good I want to remember that feeling, which I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But there are some things, and I've actually read a couple of books two times, never a third time because I just don't do that. Where I'm like, I don't understand why everybody loves this book. I'll give you an example: The Catcher in the Rye. I don't get it. So I've read it twice trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this. OK Computer by Radiohead. It's my least favorite of their stuff. Mm-hmm. I think it's good and it's interesting, but I don't get why everybody just can't shut up about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying it's bad that they can't shut up about it. I just can't figure it out. So I will watch a movie to see what is it that I'm missing? And I think I watched Joker at least twice, maybe a third time, to try to figure out through other people's eyes why it made $1.5 billion. Yeah. And my conclusion is the same as the first. Yeah. It just doesn't work. That said, I'm also intrigued by, this is it. This is the statement we need to make. We're not going to make a part 2. I will never do Joker again. I will never direct a Joker movie again. And then boom.
And then Warner Brothers is like, come on, dude. You've got to make money. This is the guy who made 3 Hangovers.
Yeah.
Come on.
Which I like all of those movies too, by the way. The first one is hysterical.
The first one is hilarious.
That scene when they go to Mike Tyson's house and Mike Tyson's talking and Bradley Cooper's like, whatever. I need to know where my friend is hilarious to me. Anyway, maybe it's Bradley Cooper. So I'm interested in what they're going to do, but my understanding is that Joker, it's going to take me rehearsing it by myself. It's just never.
I'll need to anyway, have it phonetically. Just say these 5 sounds one after the other.
Hey, he won Robert De Niro an Oscar. That's how he learned all the Italian for Godfather 2. Yeah, all phonetically. And he's one of 6 or 7 people who've won an Oscar for a non-English speaking role. Huh. More trivia. My friend thought he'd get me on Oscar morning by doing that trivia and then saying, who are the 5? It was 5 or 6 at the time. Minari, the grandmother from Minari. That counts at this point. Anyway, the trick was Robert De Niro from Godfather. You're never going to get this one. And it's the first one I listed because I know that trivia. And Marion Cotillard, Sophia Loren, she was the first, I think. Benicio del Toro from Traffic. He only has 2 lines of English in that, or 3. Anyway, so yes, I'm interested in Joker Part 2. But my understanding now is that all of the songs that are in it, which they're not using for any of the promotional stuff so far, which they're not with Wicked either, which confuses me because these are musicals.
Well, they did that with Color Purple. They've done that with the last. They did that with Mean Girls. They did that with the last 3 musicals.
Mistake.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a mistake because people who know it's a musical are not offended, but they're a little perplexed why you're not Defying Gravity. Why are we not hearing that? Now it's in the background, it's a silent whisper. Popular. You hear in the new trailer, but it's not them singing the songs, which is fine. They're a little afraid of what we were just talking about. I get it. My understanding about Joker Part 2 is that these are all songs we know, and they're doing cover versions of these songs. That, on first hearing, meaning the first time I heard that, was a little disappointing to me. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be a full-fledged rock opera or something. Yeah. But I think they're going along the lines of maybe Harley Quinn doesn't really exist, and this is in his mind, which is something they did in the first one, and so forth and so on. So anyway, I love how we digress into movies we don't like.
So it's probably going to be just Moulin Rouge with more makeup.
Well, First of all, I love that.
I do too.
I think
we didn't rewatch it all the way, but we watched the first like 45 minutes of it a week ago or so.
I say the same thing every time we talk about it, or anybody talks about it. You put a Kiss song and a U2 song in the same song together. I don't care if the movie sucked. I would still think it was the best thing ever, because that is such a smart way to do that. Mm-hmm. How do you do that? How? And Ewan McGregor can sing. He can sing. Yeah. He really can sing. Anyway, so we'll see. Joker Part 2, I'll see it. We'll see.
We'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be there.
All right. Well, you can check us out on the web at actorandengineer.com. You can go to facebook.com/actorandengineer, and you can find us on YouTube. Just search for the Actor and the Engineer podcast. We'll see you next time.